Welcome back to Anime Savants, everyone. This week I am Mangora.
Oh, this week I am Klein.
Oh, what's McCall? Was it Joe Klein last week?
That's right.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
got he was a little ahead of me because I was actually waiting on the dub for Lord of Mysteries because actually I like the dub, but it's running
Okay.
behind the both the Chinese voice and also the Japanese
Did
subtitle
you
version.
watch the undub first, and then you were just like,
I did the first for the first episode, which I liked. I liked it a lot. And then
okay,
I was looking to see if it was on any of the platforms that I'm usually watching on, like Crunchyroll, and they had, I think by default they had the dub come up, and
yeah.
I wasn't like planning on listening to the dub, but I actually thought the dub was really good.
Oh, okay.
so
Did
so
you
now I
watch the
actually
opening?
yes, yeah, I've
You
seen
did?
it.
Okay. Because I know Joe was talking about there was like a huge spoiler in the dub opening
Oh, I
with
didn't
like
see the.
whatever they
So
were
I've seen the
saying.
Japanese version of the opening,
Oh,
but the
okay.
only so in the English version they have a what do you call it, uh dub of the announcer talking through kind of like the world where they, you know, the part where they're like, oh, there are these different pathways and da, da, da. So I think the
Yeah.
spoiler is somewhere in that, but to be honest, like I didn't catch what
What it
would have been a
was.
spoiler
Okay.
there. And in fact, I was going to comment on it when we were talking about this week that I think one of the great things about the series is that it is information dense, but it very quickly rewards you for paying attention. So maybe there's something about what's in there that like I just view as information that is actually like, you know, deeply, I don't know, spoiling about the direction of the story, but I just take it all in as just good info for world building. So
Okay. Cool. Well, I guess if you want to talk more about Lord of Mysteries
right, because you're
now or
not yet watching
later,
it, am I right?
I'm not
After
watching
the
it
first
yet, but
episode.
I have the time now because I
There we
mean
go. Yeah.
the what's
So
call it the
I've only watched
challenge.
up to episode 3. But I really was episode 3 or episode 4. Let me amend that. It actually, I think episode 3. So the cool thing where we're at right now in the story, without, again, since you have not watched the next couple of episodes, is dealing a lot more with the, we'll call it like the power system of the world, but how it relates to like the culture and the conflict that's going on. So, one of the neat things that they concepts that they introduced in the third episode, because we already know about like the Antigonus Notebook. The Antigonus Notebook is this like MacGuffin that is teased in the first 2 episodes as being like, you know, the object of desire for a lot of the characters, and we find out in the second episode that there's some power behind the notebook where if someone tries to use it, and what use means I'm still totally not clear on, and they are also a beyonder that they can basically go crazy, like only people who really know what they're doing should even
Yeah.
be engaging with, like literally being in proximity to the notebook can fuck you up. Like that's what we find out in the
Mm.
second episode. So the reason why I mentioned how cool it is that there is a well developed world around all these characters is that that detail about the notebook being dangerous is a teaser to what they introduce in the third episode, is that there are these artifacts that are enchanted in some way like the notebook, and there's grades to them. So basically like a low grade artifact might be something that just has some minor supernatural powers, and maybe like if it's just around regular people it's not going to do anything. They have these like danger grades, but then the higher danger graded artifacts can have very reality warping capabilities, and they can only be used by the most highly trained people. They have to be guarded. We're introduced to one of those artifacts in that episode, and it's a creepy fucking little thing like that. In the beginning they kind of give you a lot of comedy, but then by the end
Yeah.
of the episode you're like, oh shit, this thing is actually uh incredibly dangerous, like maybe even just as dangerous as the Antigonus notebook. And they give you a lot of rules about how it's supposed to be used, and then they use the artifact as a vehicle to introduce us to a bunch of other characters who, you know, they're probably not going to be around all the time in the story, but like everything feels very natural. Like you watch the first episode, you get a lot of information dump about the world, but it's really more for you, the audience, to wonder at all the wild and wacky things that are happening because the main character has no fucking idea. Like Klein doesn't know like what any of this shit is, and here and there the memories of the person whose body that he's inhabiting are coming into him, but there's a lot that he doesn't know. The second episode is all about the organization that he joins, like which is the I think it's very much similar to Gachiakuta in the sense that like the main character joins a group of people whose job it is to protect the world that we're in,
Yeah.
and he's on one side of a particular set of factions that he's now learning about through the search for this notebook and through the search to get home. And then the third episode ramps up the danger because finally we start to work in the organizations who are working against them and who are trying to get the notebook, who are trying to and who have information and powers that are way beyond even like maybe our main cast. And that's another thing I like about Lord of Mysteries is that while it is a kind of power fantasy, because we know that Klein has some special gifts that may be related to the event that killed all those people before the first episode starts. Like we still don't know what that's about, but also the fact that he is a isekai protagonist, like the soul inhabiting his body is not the original, and so that winds up having implications about how certain powers and abilities affect or don't affect him in this world. That said, he is not overpowered himself. And in the third episode, he has to get clever about how he uses what is actually a relatively weaker power set compared to all the other characters around him to get out of a really dangerous situation. Where, and I think like I've not watched any of the episodes that come forward, but it does have a nice feeling of progression where as we're learning new information, the information matters to like problem solving that the characters are going through. The main character is growing slowly as he learns more about the world around him, but he's not omnipotent or omniscient like a lot of these kind of self-insert isekai power fantasy characters are, where they just want to skip all the parts where the character has to grow and face challenges and get right to the fact that like they're just stronger than everyone else. And so
Yeah.
that's what the audience tunes in for is them overpowering their enemies. We're not doing that. And it feels a lot more earned and natural when Klein pulls some shit off that gets him out of a situation or does something I won't say necessarily heroic, but does something that the a hero main character would do, but it just feels like he had to come up with some shit to like get out of this, otherwise everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
And so I like that. So the first three episodes really play to the strengths of what I think the series is, and it's like one of my favorite things to catch when a new episode drops. And I think the dub is actually worth listening to, not just because people are doing like bad British accents, but also like they managed to keep the emotion and the pace, and also like there's a very like understated humor in the series. And if you watch episode 3, you'll know what this means. If anyone knows, you
Oh,
can't see him. I'm
okay.
doing a particular motion with my arm, but it's a
Okay.
recurring gag in the third episode that actually like I like where they put it because it lulls you into a false sense of like comfort about what is going on, only for it to matter in the resolution
Oh,
of the conflict. Yes, it sounds
okay.
ridiculous, but if you watch the third episode, you know what I'm talking about. So Lord of
Okay.
Mysteries I think was pretty cool this week. What
Is
are so Jordan, what are you watching?
uh well, I know something that you don't watch, but actually it fed my like vengeful soul, which was like Duke's Daughter, Private Tutor to the Duke's Daughter, where it was like a whole bunch of like fluffy celebration, da 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 da. But then one of the main mystery themes is that the main character is such a genius, but he failed like the court magician exam, and no one knows why. Well, this episode basically they put it out there that he failed it because he's like an orphan. So he gets taken in by a beast race that raised him, and so like humans are the predominant thing, but there are other races that, and there's like wolf people, and elves and other stuff like that. But that's
Mm-hmm.
not the main thing. Basically, there's clearly discrimination with beast people. So he grew up with beast people, loves them down, loves his family, he's really talented, and there are four houses in addition to the crown. And the reason why there are four dukes is because they all have mastery over specific elements of magic, and they can use what was believed to be the highest class of spell, but that's slowly unraveling as the story goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what happened was he went to go take the exam, aced everything else, but when it came to the practical exam, the second prince was racist as fuck to him, made fun of his like classmate, talk shit about a duke's daughter who happened to be like his love, not his love interest, but like she's really into him, and like he respects the shit out of her because of her like effort in like certain ways. Anyways, he completely washed homeboy, like dismantled his spells, um, didn't make him beg, but basically just like made it. Basically, homeboy went into like a trust fund baby fit, and they barred him from passing the test. So that's why everybody's like, oh my God, the most talented person, blah, 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 in years, and he didn't pass. Like, what's going on? Da, da, da. But the cherry on top was the very end of the episode. Everything else that happened in between, it was kind of just like, yeah, this is for these fucking lolicon niggas. I don't care about that. At the very end of the episode, though, um, it's like a common theme throughout the, not a common thing, but it's like being said throughout the episode that his homegirl that graduated like in the same class as him is taking the court exam. And so this
Mm-hmm.
is all happening in the background where like because they're at the school's ceremony for like the Duke's daughter, like the younger girl. But the other girl has had like a decent amount of screen time throughout the series. And the very last thing is her at the court exam, and she's literally like, yeah, I'm gonna kill the second prince because he embarrassed my homeboy. Like he embarrassed my future husband. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
kill you. And it just shows just like bodies. Like she didn't kill the other people. Basically, she just like no one can stop her because she's a duchess's daughter. So like she already has mastered the like spell or whatever, like the prime spell or whatever for fire. So yeah, them niggas can't stop her. So and that's where it ended. And I was like, you know what? I like that. I was like, the show is definitely not phenomenal by any means, but it is entertaining. And I think it is doing a lot more with like the politics, the power system, and just like the romance stuff. It's kind of just like, I was just throwing this in here for them niggas that are weird. But completely without the romance stuff, it definitely could just be a story about someone who was born into privilege and had like a huge handicap and is now trying to actively overcome that handicap in real time. And then it's like compounded upon with people basically being like, oh, well, you think you're so good and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, no, they are actually good. And she actually put in the work to be where she's at. And so all those themes, I believe, could carry the show without the romance between, the what 9, 10-year-old girl and like the 17-year-old, like 18-year-old dude. Like, which the guy is not the main character, the guy, he's not playing into it at all. Like he is very straight faced, like, yeah, I'm not into you. Like I want to do with
Thank
you,
God.
like at all.
Thank
Um,
God.
but it's the girl, the main girl who's just like it's like okay, it's like all right, whatever. But I think even that is kind of interesting because it's juxtaposing her like adolescent love with like the actual love from like someone that is his age who's already claimed him. Like and she is of the same social class as the little girl. So it's kind of just like, oh, like how are you gonna really do this? Like, but anyways, yeah. Um, it's interesting. I completely wrote it off and I'm enjoying it. It's nice. It did have a
I,
4.5 episode already though. So I was like, what the fuck are y'all doing over there? But yeah.
I think I only remember. I may have only watched the trailer. How is like the production? Like, is it like is it nice to look at? I guess
In general, the talking scenes, you're there, whatever. But the production, whenever there's magic involved, is
Got it.
where they're doing. And they did the climax that happened in episode 4, um, where there was like a really big battle between like just the girls and like an antagonist. There was a lot of stuff going on in that, and it's not just the kind of magic where they stand still. They have to learn. Well, they don't have to learn, but like there's another little girl that accompanies the Duke's daughter. That's basically like her handmaid, like from birth, technically.
Mm-hmm.
And she specializes in two things of magic, but also her family specializes in close combat. So she mixes in close combat while using the magic, while simultaneously protecting the Duke's daughter or whatever. But yeah, they put effort into the action scenes. It's not Sakuga porn. Like it's not going on. It's not going to. But when it is time to showcase the magic, it makes it very obvious. Like, no, this is what we want to show off. Like this gives us opportunity, and that's why I think because of the source material and how they go into depth about the elements and like aptitudes and mixing and things of that stuff and blah 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 stuff like that. It's like, well, yeah, if you're gonna give us a 5 minute breakdown, when you show it, when I see it, I want it to look good, and it does. It always looks good. It always looks good.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think yeah, that is the highlight, the magic.
Gotcha. Have you been following Water Magician at all, or did you not go further?
No, so that water magician, and Clivitas are my like main catch ups for
Got
next
it.
week.
Got it.
So
Got it.
yeah,
I'll talk.
but
I'll
I
talk a
know
little
you
bit Water
said
Magician because you mentioned like
yeah,
the magic being sort of like the highlight of what's
yeah.
going on. So I think we're at is it episode 5 or episode 6 that is currently. I've seen up to episode 5. Um, it's another one of those shows. I've had an interesting relationship with it because when you're watching Water Magician, you can definitely feel the influences of other similar stories. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think you saw the first episode already
I
or
saw
no?
the
You
first
don't.
episode already. Yeah.
Okay, so you know that the setup is like Rio gets reincarnated and then he gets a couple of abilities, but the first episodes I won't say it's like a bait and switch, it's not. It's
Oh.
but the premise of what the show presents itself to be and what it kind of very quickly evolves into are they're on like the same they're on the same wave, but they're not they're different than what you might expect if you watch the first episode. In the first
Okay.
episode, we are clearly told that Rio's intent is to live a quote unquote like slow life,
Mm-hmm.
kind of by himself, just basically big chilling. And he spends most of the episode experimenting with magic, which I
Yeah.
think is a strong point of his character and also what the show wants to do. This is very clearly an example of what I was saying before about the main character is given ridiculous skills so that you don't necessarily have to watch them think through and try to overcome challenges because they're
Yeah.
OP. Like that setup is what one normally does with that idea.
Yeah.
Then the next few episodes basically are him engaging like Abel shows up and he's like an adventurer, he's like shipwrecked, and then it's like okay, that's the call to adventure for the main for Rio because he's like, oh, I finally met somebody for the first time, and they don't really maybe I wasn't paying attention, but it's in like the descriptions for the series that first episode really is supposed to cover his 20 years that he spends by himself.
Oh.
It's not immediately obvious, but like if you go read any of like the
Oh, well, I think didn't one of his skills say he has eternal
he has
youth?
eternal youth, correct, but it's
Yeah.
not translated well in the show that everything that you see with him, all the fairy king stuff, whatever, it
Yeah.
feels like it's a very short period of time, but
Yeah.
it's supposed that whole everything that happens up until Abel popping up is supposed to have been 20 years worth of him
Oh,
fucking around on his own,
wow.
which I think to me makes a big difference, and I wish that it was better communicated in the show because what it feels like is that he just is thinking because he can think outside the box with his like magical ability that he just
Yeah.
becomes OP in an afternoon of
That's
like
what it
fucking around, but it's
that's definitely
not.
what it was
He
giving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was at it for 20 years, and there's a reason why I bring that up because once he meets Abel, and obviously like Abel is shocked that he has all of these like crazy magical abilities. He can do things that like no one else can do. Chantless magic and layering spells 4 times. He's taken out like really serious dangerous like creatures and other things. He's basically performing
Mm-hmm.
miracle feats. And like the level how do I say this, but like the idea of there then being a threat to the story kind of dissipates in the next couple of episodes because it starts to feel like it's just a wish fulfillment power fantasy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it switches gears again because once Rio goes with Abel, they basically go on a journey, overland journey, to walk back to the place where they came from, which they imply
Oh,
takes a couple of months. Now again, they kind of like push through this very quickly, so it doesn't you don't get the sense of just how long it took them to get there. But they finally like arrive at the city where Abel is from, and in the process, they basically crossed this like mountain range that is full of like the highest level
wait. So
like creatures.
they've already completed that month, those months long journey, like in these
Yeah, it
few
kind of happens in
episodes.
an episode. Now, I will give some
Oh,
credit that like
okay.
there's some things that happen along the way. Basically, the in episode 2, it covers their travel from where the isolated area of the continent where Rio is staying, all the way to where Abel's place is. He came via ship that like shipwrecked. So they go
Mm-hmm.
overland. We basically find out at the end of that journey that the route that they took is a route nobody else would take because it goes over this mountain range that's full of high level, dangerous monsters. And
Which
in the
is
process,
where
yeah. So
Rio's been.
in the
Okay.
process, we run into at least one monster that the main character believes he can't beat. It's a thing called a behemoth, but they wind up destroying a bunch of other monsters that nobody else can beat, which are a bunch of like dragon like things. But he's taking them
Mm-hmm.
out like in ways that Abel's looking at this nigga like, I can't believe you're one shotting them with like blocks of ice in the air. Like he's going kind of crazy on these dudes.
Yeah.
So then you think after the second episode, okay, so the what the show wants me to get into is Ryo's feats as he wows all the people around him being like this crazy mage. That's also not what happens because by episode 3, it switches into more of like a slice of life ish adventure type of story because he joins the guild and then he has to start at the bottom and you meet all these like younger characters who are all trying to
Yeah.
get their start. So it's like, oh, is he going to party up with them? Because Abel, we find out, is actually like a high ranked adventurer and he's got his own group. So they go do
Oh,
they're off doing their own thing. So again, like now Rio's character is really more focused on learning new stuff than actually like going out and performing feats of strength. And then it switches again in episode 4 where we finally get like an actual antagonist that like and episode 4 is kind of where I changed my opinion of the story, mostly because we finally had like some intrigue to and a challenge. So a demon shows up, like basically
oh,
that there's an eclipse, and in the moment of the eclipse everyone else like disappears, and this demon pops up and only Rio can see them, and then they realize Rio can see them, and then they get into a brawl that like destroys like half the town, but it's
oh,
like on the eclipse side of the town, so it's like an alternate
like a
dimension.
dimension.
And that's
Yeah.
when I you start to see, okay, there's a character that could kind of match him blow for blow. He's got to use his smarts and the stuff that he's been training his magic to do to even keep up with this character. And then because it all happens in the time of the eclipse, it's like a very time limited fight, and then the demon's like, oh, I see you, motherfucker, I'm gonna find you the next time and I'm gonna be even better than I am right now, so you better watch your ass. And then that, because he's the only person to
Wow.
experience that, that then creates the intrigue for him to do other things in the plot that actually makes sense. Like it's not wandering around, because the feeling I
He
got
needs to
was like
like
up to
start
episode
training.
4, the plot was happening to Rio. He wasn't a prime mover really in anything. He was just sort of like la da da. I've got like crazy powers. I'm like just like
So
here
basically, he
doing
was doing
stuff.
what he wanted to do. He was doing what he
Exactly.
wanted
He's
to
kind
do.
of like
Yeah.
fucking around. After episode 4, it's like, oh, okay, there's some like actual stakes, and there's more to what's going on than just like him coming and flexing on folks. Like, yes, he is strong, and yes, like, for the most part, not everyone is aware of how strong he is. But this series doesn't have to be so one note. And it gave me something in episode 4 that then continued forward that I was like, okay, I can dig into this a little bit more. It's kind of like when in Mushoku Tensei, when like root the end of season 1, when like you
Mm.
know what I mean, like
Like
there's
him
a
being in the like family's home, and like them just like him teaching her and being in the city, just like slice of life basically
right,
until
like but if you remember the end of season 1, like all shit hits the fan, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, there's a lot more to what is going on. Like there's, I
which
won't say
they've
there.
talked about over and over again,
Right,
the,
right.
the
I'm
demon
and I'm not sure.
continent and
Like
all that
one
kind
of
of
the
stuff.
problems with Mushoku Tensei, especially early on, is that it's not totally clear. Is there an antagonist that's also driving the story? Things are happening. Characters are doing things, but they're happening off. Literally, they're happening off camera. You don't know why or what is going on. And to have that to go like 12 episodes with like no fucking clue is a choice. Here, it took about 4 episodes to get to like some meat on the bone, and then it makes you kind of recontextualize the first three to be like, oh, okay, we kind of needed that to settle into the world
Because
and
that
some
could
of
have been the
the
first episode. They could have time skipped like motherfucker and gotten to
exactly,
that
exactly.
fight.
We need now again. I
Yeah.
wish that they had been a little bit more clear about like time passing because they just kind of say, "Oh, well, you also have eternal youth," and it's like, okay, and then it's like, how does that that doesn't really play into the story unless you tell or somehow communicate to the audience that like he's not a 20-year-old guy who just found out he had magic. He's a 40-year-old guy in the
Yeah.
body of a 16-year-old who has been playing with magic for 2 decades, and he also has cheat skills and the other the fairy king's like this
Yeah.
guy was is a fairy king, and so like that again is starting to play into the story a little bit because he runs into an elf that's just sort of like doesn't say it to him, but she's like, why the fuck does he have the cloak of the fairy king? Like what? That doesn't make any sense. So it's like these little things. It took about 4 or 5 episodes for it to like step up
Start
into
cooking.
yeah, like it wasn't. I'm not saying if you enjoyed the first couple episodes because they were like a little more easygoing and they fit the trope of the overpowered isekai protagonist, fine. The fact that there is now something for him to do that is
Hmm.
meaningful is very good. I'm still waiting to see what his actual character brings to the story other than, being like, kind of okay with everything that's happening around him. Because like one of the things about Mushoku Tensei, it's very old. And I know people are very conflicted about Rudius, but like Rudius has a very strong character. I when you meet him and very quickly you learn a lot about how this person interprets what's going on in the world around them, the things, what their values are and aren't, um, the way they're right. I mean, like all of that is very clear, and some of
Yeah.
it's like a meme, but it's also like good characterization because you can place yourself in that person's mind, and it makes sense. Like what they're doing. To me, I think the mark of like a great character, and feel free to push back on this if you disagree, but I think like the mark of a great character in fiction is that a person very quickly who's absorbing them can guess accurately how they will react to some situation or scenario that's presented in the story, right? Like if you find out, if let's say like a murder occurs, and the main character witnesses it, we should have a good idea of how they're going to absorb that and then emotionally and mentally deal with it. If you don't know, or the character literally doesn't do anything, they don't change, they don't go through anything. To me, that's usually a sign of like bad characterization. That's also why a lot of these like isekai power fantasies
Hmm.
suck from a characterization standpoint because the main character never goes through anything that would tell you like what they believe in. They're totally fully formed and then they can do anything, so then there's no threat. Like if they, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, if a girl is being abused, I'm gonna save her. Like that's not a character trait, right? Like it doesn't. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one area where in the Water Magician, I think where it's cribbing notes from Mushoku Tensei, but it's not there yet because Ryo still I'm not totally sure what his character is. Like I don't really know from the first 4 or 5 episodes like what matters to him, what does he believe in? He's starting to kind of show that he's very he like like he's very into like scholarship and like
Yeah.
learning about the world and magic. Like he's very greedy for that information, but so far I don't think anything that he has done has been motivated by a strong character trait. And that I think is the only thing holding me back from being like, oh, this show is great. Right now it's good and it's
Yeah.
pleasant, but I'm not getting like character. We on the flip side, like Eminence and Shadow, that's all memes and it's all gas. The characters wear who
But
they
we
are
know. But we
on their
know.
sleeves,
Yeah.
and it's intense, and sometimes it's like it's like one or two dimensional, but I get who those characters are. I'm waiting for this to give me something. So,
Yeah.
but it's good. But I do enjoy
I
it.
miss
And
Eminence and Shadow. I'm surprised they didn't immediately like come back with season three.
listen, I'm
Damn.
ready. I'm ready for this like reverse isekai now that he's
Oh,
in.
that shit blew my fucking mind, man. Oh my god, yeah. Well, it's a reverse isekai into like parallel universe shit because they were talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
other stuff. Well, yeah. Anyways,
But he summoned himself back, so I'm
just
just like,
oh my god, which now makes the first episode make so much more like
yes, I know. I was like,
sense.
there you go, man.
The
I don't know
longest
if that was the
game,
always the plan when the author wrote the first like what was it a light novel or was it a manga first?
light novel, yeah.
Okay, so when they first wrote that first volume of the light novel, I don't know if that was the plan to pay that off, but the fact that he was Chunibyo Batman before he died, and now he's coming back as like Giga Chunibyo Batman, I rock with that. I rock. It's
Yeah,
silly, but I rock with it.
yeah.
Um,
But
okay.
okay, yeah, that's interesting with Water Magician. I mean, I liked what I saw based off of just, the first episode. And well, I would say like the aesthetic of the show, because I didn't watch the trailer, but I looked at like the visuals and I was like, you know what? I feel like this is probably like really good or really fucking boring. And it's kind of like not in between, but it's like it's on the good side. It's not just like this is just isekai slop. So that's good. But I was gonna ask you because you mentioned, I think like last week or 2 weeks ago about it when you were saying I'm not interested in it, but like I need something to like
Yeah.
spur it on. And then I think I was on like Blue Sky and I saw someone post about the encounter with the demon, and I was like, oh, I think this is what James is looking for. Because you said
Yep.
you thought then there was gonna be something within the next episode, but you were like, but I'll let you know. And then I'm like, oh shit, well, clearly it did go down. It did happen.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like one of my like recurring pet peeves in all of fiction is just how so little attention is paid into developing strong antagonists in pop media. Like even some of the most popular stuff that's out there that really people enjoy all suffer from like a villain problem where or where like the thing that the person writing, producing, promoting the material thinks is cool is all the fun stuff that the protagonist gets to do. But the thing is that without a good villain to sink your teeth into story wise, character wise, like plot and timing wise, all that cool stuff winds up having very little meaning. So in order to give meaning to like anything that I like, if you watch the first episode of Water Magician, they spend a lot of time on like the magic system and how creative the main character is about using those powers, and he's not being guided by anybody. So there's really like these moments in the first episode where you're like, oh, okay. So is what I'm going to see going forward him being faced with problems that he's going to solve with his magic. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
guess you can do that for a little bit, but the thing is like that's a system problem. That's like you're watching someone figure out a system. It's a lot harder to watch someone figure out a person. Why am I in conflict with this person? How am I supposed to resolve this conflict? If there is no peaceful resolution or rhetorical resolution, I have to fight this person. I have to physically oppose them. Is That's where the solution to the system can be a solution to a narrative problem. But a lot of
Yeah.
times these stories, they only look at like this, they hyper fixate on the system because the system is the thing that they spend all their time explaining, and it's really all the characters talk about. Very rarely do you even in like really good series do you have the main characters sitting around talking about the problems they're having with another person. Don't get that very much. You know what
Yeah.
series you do get that a lot in? Romance. right? This happens, this is like a
Yeah.
staple because obviously you cannot resolve things by like punching them. So we like Dress Up Darling. Maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. Like Dress Up Darling is a really great show because all the characters spend a lot of time talking about what they're thinking and the conflicts that they're either having with themselves,
Yeah.
the world, or the other characters, so that you know when they then wind up in the same space together that you're expecting that whatever they were trying to talk through is going to play itself out when they're one on one with another person. And that's the drama. And that is what drives the show. It's funny because you would think like shonen and action oriented or whatever type series would get that because that's also true in the classics. It's true in Dragon Ball Z. People like, make fun of this shit. But like part of the reason why a lot of characters stand around talking about things is so that you very clearly identify who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what does the good guy believe, what does the bad guy believe, and then they're going to
Yeah.
resolve it with fireballs.
Yeah.
But the fireballs are just a method to resolve the conflict. Like that right? Naruto got over. The reason why it's so popular is because they say talk no jutsu. But the point of all that talking is so that the audience understands good guy believes this, bad guy believes this. They're gonna solve it with ninja fight. Like that's how you do it. A lot of the bad shows, they'll be like, oh, I don't know what the good guy believes. Bad guy is bad.
Bad guy's bad. We got to beat him.
We gotta beat him, and that's why they all fall apart, narratively,
Yeah.
because there's no development of like antagonist role, protagonist role, make them, the ideologies conflict. So I say all that to mean like Water Magician has the opportunity to develop more of a like understandable character for Rio, and the world building is just deep enough. It isn't very deep, but it's just deep enough that if you do put some energy into some of the antagonists, which they've done a little bit of in episode 4, less so in episode 5 for reasons because it focuses on like a monster outbreak, so
Hmm.
that it's a lot of like time filling action that is like cost
Oh.
saving stuff, but clearly there's a reason for it, so that'll get more into the story later on. But at least in episode 4, we got an antagonist who is mysterious, is powerful, is only sort of engaged with the main character, but is hinting at bigger, badder things going on. And hopefully, if they play that thread out, that will then give Rio, the character, an opportunity to tell us what he cares about and why it matters. Because right now, it's not there yet. But before that episode, I wouldn't have been able to tell you how they were going to get there. Now that we've seen it, I could be like, oh, okay, I can hold out a little bit to give him some room to cook. And again, it's like a upper B tier production. So like the animation in a lot of
Yeah.
places
Well, I
is,
mean, doing all that with that water, which I mean, I feel like doing ice, like giving him the
yeah.
ability to do ice, probably like eased up on the water, the liquid animation, or I would
Yeah,
assume
but
it
it's still
would
good.
have.
Like the first episode I think has the best animation outside of episode 4 for just
Oh,
like general like moving
okay.
around action combat. Episode 5 they get really, it's a cost. I for an episode that's supposed to be very action oriented and it's almost like a war between the adventurers and all the monsters pouring out of the thing. It's also a cost saving episode. There's a lot of like stills and CG, and you could just tell
Okay.
that that
Hmm.
is deliberate to get the budget under control. Because the previous one was a one-on-one fight with nobody around, so they could really give you special effects and hand-drawn animation to like make it
Yeah.
look good. So
Well,
it is
speaking
weird.
of CG, Tougen Anki, um, I I mean, unfortunately, I was on the internet, just reading stuff, reading things about anime. And there was something that was posted about the Tougen Anki anime doing really, really well in Japan. Um,
Oh.
and so, like foolish, I read the comments, and it was just a whole bunch of people complaining about Oh, and the thing that got me was that they weren't complaining that the CG was bad. They were complaining that the CG was in it at all. So they weren't even open to the show being good because it had CG in it. So they
Hmm.
were like, "Oh my god, why do they like this slop? Like, oh my god, like I would never watch an anime that uses CG like this. Like it's
Was
just
this a
not
Japanese
good."
audience that was reacting to that, or was that the
No,
American audience?
this was the American audience reacting to the Japanese's positive reception to the show, and it was kind of just like, but shouldn't that spur you on to basically be like, well, if they like it, maybe I will like it too. Maybe I should check it out. But it was just a whole bunch of people going on diatribes and just like, oh my god, like CG, like ill, like they don't have a good budget, blah blah blah. But the CG isn't bad. Like they
It's not
use it
bad.
in Tougen Anki. They use it a lot, but when they do use it, it's not even like jarring where it's kind of just like, oh, this is like two different shows in one. It's like, oh yeah, that was CG. And
Yeah,
then
you
it's
can
just
make
like,
these
okay,
types
it's
of
a
things
part of
part of
it.
the aesthetic of the show.
And
And
because it was
again, I mean, we talked about
introduced,
this last week, but
yeah,
yeah, like Tougen Anki, like the strength of it is the direction.
yeah.
Like that's
Which
the
I
strength of it. So
mean,
and that plays out whether it's their hand drawn scenes or their CGI scenes. So like to me, if you are reacting to the special effects and you're just saying I don't like these effects, that's one thing. You can't tell somebody what to like. You know what I mean? Like people are
yeah.
gonna do what they do. But if you're saying, oh, it's bad because they use a certain kind of special effect, that doesn't make any sense.
I really am enjoying the show. And honestly, like this past episode gave me Naruto as fuck.
Oh
Like
my God, yes.
it was literally like, bitch, am I like not like taking from Naruto, but like similar like goals and like there was a lot of parallels, and I was like, bitch, it's Naruto. Like not in a bad way, but just like,
No.
oh, like you took the stuff that audiences like really like about Naruto or like the plot points or like the motivations
Yep.
specifically with like characters, and you were like, I'm gonna use that. And I was like, okay. And I'm not mad. I was like, this is okay, great. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it like
Yeah.
sure.
Shiki is a very anime protagonist character,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that can not come off very well, but in just like in general, but in this particular series, there's a lot of things like all right, maybe it's just my bias and it's just me, but like I like it sometimes when I'm presented something that's very familiar, but then there's an aspect I can't predict. Like there are
Mm,
scenes that happen whether there's stuff the characters are doing or like the way they use the effects or the way the powers are going to be presented that like I wouldn't have guessed that that was going to be the next thing that I saw. So that is to say like surprise works out in the favor of this series because it does things that are sometimes unusual. I remember in episode 2 when the guy like busted out the umbrella that was made out of blood and like I
yeah.
there's we literally have another character in a running series right now who's in a mentor role whose ability is a fucking umbrella. Okay? So there's literally two umbrella characters in two high profile action series running at the same time.
Yeah.
And yet almost nothing about the way uh they used that umbrella thing is
Mm-hmm.
what I would have expected. He turns the thing into like a sea urchin. It's got like all the blood spikes coming out of it. Then he summons all the archers and everything
Yeah.
else. It's like a cage around him. Like I would not have guessed by looking at that character or that power set that that was the next thing that I was going to see. Right? Doesn't mean that it's like the most creative thing in the world, like, or it's like, super fresh.
But
Doesn't
it's
mean that
cool.
like they're doing anything with like the shonen structure of the show that's like out of left field. It's just surprising in a good way. It's like, oh, someone thought about this and they wanted to, do something interesting and they did it and it looks fine. And let's keep going. I want to see more because I can't guess what the next thing I'm going to see is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this most recent episode, I enjoyed that the umbrella is not just a regular umbrella.
Yep.
Like it's like a toolkit. Like it's I Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of the other umbrella, we haven't seen that other umbrella in a minute, but we got to see Scissors Girl.
Yes, we did.
But
Do you want to hop
yeah,
over to Gachiakuta?
yeah, we can hop up to Gachiakuta. First of all, shout out to the mangaka for drawing and designing black characters in a non-caricature way. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you so much. Which I mean, she's worked with Okubo, who never had that problem.
Nope.
So it's probably like, oh, okay, like this is my experience. And I'm not saying that she's deliberately getting it from him. I'm saying, oh, she's been in an environment where there have been characters specifically who are black, like Nigerian, like black
Mm-hmm.
characters, and they were drawn in
Was
a
he
very
was
specific
what's his face?
way.
Ebo? Was that did they? Because they got real specific. They said something in the
Yeah, wait, I
Lack
thought
of Power.
Ogun. Wait, I thought Ogun was. Is he Nigerian? I'm not caught up on Fire Force.
Yeah,
I might be
but
wrong. I
anyway,
might be
like that.
wrong. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just like, oh shit. Like, first of all, love the design. She's hot and she's
Yes.
cool. She's so
Yes.
cool. I'm just like, you hit every nail on the fucking head. Had every nail on the head. And I was just like, well, that does it for me for the episode right there. I was like, that's fun. Um, and then they move it along, and then we have battle crazed Scissor Girl. And it's just like even
Rio, right? That's her
yeah,
name.
Rio. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I like that as well. There's no like snoveling, afraid heroine who's just like, oh, he's so cute. Like she's just like, I'm gonna touch your head. What's like your hair is different. Like do 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 do. Like she moves to the beat of her own drum. She moves to the beat of her own drum. She is not at the behest of the male characters. I
No.
love that. I love that. Off jump with that. But actually, even like okay, so like comparing protagonists, and I was comparing like Tougen Anki, Gachiakuta, and Black Clover. So the difference between Tougen Anki, what the fuck is his name? Protagonist shit.
Shiki.
Shiki being loud and Asta being loud is
Mm-hmm.
that Shiki, when Shiki's now on screen, they're not panning back to him just for him to yell and scream.
Yes.
Black Clover did that on a regular basis in the beginning, where it was kind of just like Asta, Asta, Asta. He's yelling, he's screaming, blah 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 blah, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's his personality, but there's no downtime. Shiki, when Shiki's not on that fucking screen, he's not on the screen. He's not even thought of. So then, when his boisterous personality shows up, it's like, god damn. But it's also like, oh, but you know what? That's who you are. So period. With
Yeah.
Gachiakuta, it's like Rudo is like completely opposite. Like a lot of his monologue is like internal right now, like a shit ton of it, because he is actively taking everything in, and then he still doesn't really even know how to activate his powers, what his powers are. And now I'm even more intrigued because I'm just like, well, what the fuck happened this episode with like the bar like going haywire and almost killing the support dude? So there's there's a lot, and then they're doing a really good job of like drip feeding the future conflict with there's a
Mm-hmm.
beast that they've never seen before, it didn't die immediately, why was there a what's call it a box cutter in that monster, which I see that and in my head thinking it's just like, wait, are the fucking trash monsters like, do they have the
Yeah,
power
they
of
mentioned
giving,
that like
or like the
yeah.
souls of those thrown out items are so potent and powerful that like it's just like, oh, okay, like y'all are already cooking and setting things up in addition to giving us the traditional like shonen formula. Like we're not in the like, training arc or tournament arc or anything like that. We're nowhere near that. Well, I say we're nowhere near that, and then next week's episode will come out and I'll be like, oh shit, well, here we go, tournament arc. But I'm enjoying how I'm getting the information. I think that, like what you said, that first episode was necessary because we got the majority. We got to see how stark the difference is between the sphere and then the rest of the world. And
Mm.
the way that like the people up there are in a way like more suppressed than the people that are on the ground, because they have to like abide by specific rules, by specific standards, they have to look a specific way, while it seems as though like the people on the ground, their quality of life sucks, yeah, but they do have a life and they have more freedom within their lives. And
Right.
so it's just like, I like, this is giving me this is feeding me in multiple ways, And I love that. It's almost, I don't want to say it's like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or like in that way, but I'm saying, or I believe that like the attention to the entirety of the world, the entirety of the plot, not just, oh, these are the power dynamics, this is the power system, and these niggas gonna be fighting. It's more so than this. And even what you said previously about how trash is seen and treated depending on it. I'm just like, all of that stuff, like that is not something you usually get within the first like 3 to 4 fucking episodes of a shonen. Like that is not common. So I already was just like every single episode for Gachiakuta, I'm just like, yeah, I'm loving this more and more. It's not Demon Slayer fucking like insanity levels of like animation and da da da. But even with Demon Slayer, niggas didn't really hop on that till episode 19 when it happened.
Yep.
So, but also the entire time before episode 19, Demon Slayer spent time like with its characters. Like we knew who Tanjiro is. We knew, oh, he's
Yes, that's
overly
so important. Yes.
sympathetic. Like we
Yep.
knew this, da 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 da. So when that did happen, it was like, okay, like
You understood his character very well,
yes, yeah,
and therefore every interaction that he had operated on two levels. The first level is like the emotional and ideological. You
yeah.
learn about what you know what he believes in. You find out what his enemy believes in, who is
Mm-hmm.
the the antagonist at the time. And so they that like it's they make sure to set that up every time he runs into somebody new. It's even if it's like bad guy of the week, which is something people complained about, by the way, in the early when Demon Slayer was first airing before episode 19,
Yeah,
there was like
yeah, yeah.
constant like whining online about how they spend so much time about on these like tragic backstories for every demon,
They were
and it was
whining about, you know what? I'm
fucking
glad
yeah.
I
It was like it was they
wow.
were like they said if Naruto has talk no jutsu, Tanjiro had cry no jutsu. Like they were just
Oh,
going
I
on
have
and
heard
on about
that. I
all
have
that
heard
shit.
that.
But it
But
goes
it
back to what I
made
was
it
talking about
better
before.
though.
The reason you do
Yeah.
that is so that when you show the conflict between two characters, there's enough meat on the bone of the antagonist that it actually means something when Tanjiro or the heroes triumph over them. They're not just triumphing over a bad guy. They're triumphing over a person in pain, a person who,
Who didn't even
had
probably
these
choose to
things.
be a demon.
Yeah, for the most part, like the now you could if there was a criticism, it's that most of the stories for the demons basically boil down to either that individual was treated very poorly by society and people in life, and is therefore they took made a choice that allowed them to lash out against that in death, or turning into a
Yeah.
demon, so you have to die first. That's one side. And then the other side is like they had something that they wanted to protect, and they went about it, the worst possible way, right?
Yeah.
So there's a criticism is that there's not a lot of like differentiating between a
But
lot of these.
honestly, that's more than what we get from a lot of
Yeah,
villains
yeah,
and
yeah,
other
yeah.
good shows.
I'm
So,
just trying to
yeah.
give like the best faith criticism of it, but the
Yeah.
important part is that you learn about it so that it matters when the conflict happens. And both, so like usually it's like the main characters are trying to overcome something, and then
Mm-hmm.
the thing they're overcoming is played off against the history and story and beliefs of the demon that they're fighting. Like that's usually the way it works. But whatever. You brought up something that was actually pretty interesting, and it made me look something up. So when you compared Asta, Rudo, and Shiki, right,
Mm-hmm.
as all characters who kind of like, from a presentation point of view, kind feel like they're the same archetype, right? Sort of like
Yeah.
a little bit
I think
hyperactive, a
Rudo's a
little
little
bit
bit out of
aggressive,
it, but
loud,
yeah.
whatever. And interestingly enough, like I thought this was true. So this is why I wanted to go look this up. So would you be surprised to find to know that both Asta and Rudo are the same age? They're both presented as 15-year-old boys. Okay.
Mm.
Shiki is 17. And I think that actually makes a very big difference because of all three of those characters, the two that have the most in common from a presentation point of view are Asa and Rudo. And I actually think they have the same um character trait, but it's just expressed slightly different because both characters have a hard time, and they talk about this in both series, inner monologue and just in the regular yapping. Both of
Yeah.
those characters have a really, really hard time interacting with other people. They have a hard
Yeah.
time expressing themselves. They struggle with emotions. They struggle with making connections, and both internalize a lot of self-deprecation and pity and other things that, basically they feel like, why would anybody want to be friends with me, right? Which is a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
common adolescent to early teenage, challenge that people have, boys and girls, that like they don't know how to, they're not socialized and they don't know how to, express themselves well. And that's what then leads to kind of, on one end, a kind of like spazzy, very loud, very like overcompensating
Yeah.
personality type, which of course we all know that typically it smooths itself out as you get older, but that's an experience thing, right? Shiki is that's not his character. And I think
No.
it's important because him being older actually makes a big difference. Yeah, he's kind of a punk. Like that, absolutely. Like he's
But
on
he
the
has a
more
strong sense of
aggressive,
self already.
right? More aggressive, slightly less thoughtful type of a character archetype. But because he's older, he doesn't, I don't, at least when I've seen in the first few episodes, his issue is not relating to other people and being like, not confident in himself. He's just, aggressive in a way to like, cover up his actual emotions, right? Because like in the
Mm-hmm.
first episode, the whole thing with his dad or his adopted father, like he treated him like shit, and was very aggressive. But then you see by the end, like that was really just a way to deflect a lot of what he felt about him. And then in the end, when he dies, it's like it actually gets to him like really badly. And he feels like, maybe if I'm mean to him even when he's going out, maybe that'll get him back up. And then the father, just dies anyway. And like I didn't laugh, but I was just sort of like, oh yeah, that's what's gonna happen. Is a,
Yeah.
get out of here. But I bring that up to say that like Rudo's character is a version of that, and I just think it's just a better developed character, where we are shown in the first episode how much effort he has tried to put in to learn how to communicate, because it's not natural for him, which kind of implies he might be on the spectrum a little bit as well. Because what the in episode 2, when he has the flashback about stuff that Regato was talking to him about, like,
Mm-hmm.
how to smile and do everything else, and he has to like
Yeah.
practice it because it's not natural, and then that turns into a gag in the episode. But it's actually kind of a very like heartfelt thing, where like Rudo's a character who really does he desperately wants to be able to communicate with people. Like that is something that is like front and
Yeah.
center
And
from the
he's
very first
trying.
episode all the way through, is that he really, really, really wants to communicate. He is willing to put in the effort to try. When it doesn't go well, he's a child, so he's going to deal with it the way a child deals with it. But his core character that we've been introduced to is of a kind and sensitive person who wants to, learn more and
Connect.
become friends with people and have a community. And that makes a lot of sense given that he's a 15-year-old boy struggling with his emotions. So Asta and Rudo, I think, are a lot closer, together. It's just that the way that both are characterized is very different. I think Asta is very annoying. He's annoying and loud, and they fixate on the annoying and loud part in the like story,
Yeah.
whereas Rudo is also a little bit annoying and a little bit loud. He's not necessarily like screaming that
He's
much. I don't think that's really where he's at, but he's similarly awkward. And I think again he's a much more thoughtful, maybe emotionally available character off rip, like almost
mm-hmm.
immediately. Like when Regito's like teasing him about giving the little doll to the girl, and he's like having like a emotional moment, he's very
Yeah.
embarrassed, but like he doesn't deny that that's what he wants and what he's feeling. He just doesn't know how to deal with
Feel
the
it.
embarrassment of somebody
Yeah.
bringing it up, which is very relatable.
For a
Asa would just start
teenager,
screaming and like
especially.
run off camera or something, and you'd be like, oh, okay, what do we do with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
um, so I enjoyed that. What else are we watching? Is there anything else?
Uh Oh, well, Shield Hero did something and then they annoyed the shit out of me at the very.
Oh
They left
no.
it on a cliffhanger. So like they did, which so you know, or I don't know. Well, you've probably you know about like the half white tiger like
Yeah, I
siblings and
haven't
stuff
now that
like
I'm
that.
aware of it. I kind of know I've read like a wiki entry. I've not
Yeah.
read the
Oh, okay.
manga.
Honestly, that's all you fucking need because they've been around for a while. They've been around for a while, and they've like dropped hints about this and Silk Belt and all kind of shit like that. Um, and I have to say, like the way that they've built up these first four episodes for this season, specifically with like the politics and they're never truly clear on what the actual fuck happened. Like, why are they ostracized? What is this? And so then we basically had an episode of info dump. So like episode 4 was like pure info dump of just like, oh, well, actually it was like political machinations, like political games, like all without around the table, around poisoning, around all this kind of stuff like that. And a little bit like back to the OG Shield Hero, basically being like, fuck you niggas, I'm doing what I want. Like I'm tired of this shit, da 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 da. But then it brings in, the siblings, and then it's a duel. And so they're dropping lore hints. There's like, this is what happened to their dad. This is how their grandfather was. This is what the
Mhm.
country was before it became what it is right now. And it primarily because of the current antagonist. So then they do this whole thing where they're fighting and they clearly are going to win. But it's kind of just like, a slight showcase, but then it turns against them and all kinds of stuff like that. And then they talk about like the beast forms where like if they're already beastmen then they can turn like full beast, and then if you're like half beastman then you turn into like the beastman form for like a power up or whatever. And the way that they did the lead up to the like transformation for the brother was really 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 cool. And then they immediately ended the episode, and I kind of was just like, okay, I know that the cliffhanger brings people back like da 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 da, but they literally threw all of their like good momentum that they had going on during like the talk battle, because they did a really good job of balancing the battle portions and them like going back and forth, because it was like a double duel simultaneously. So
Okay.
like the sister going against the minotaur and he going against the lion dude and stuff like that, like they did a really good job going back and forth. And then they go to the stands where now Fumi is talking to the people being like, yo, what the fuck? What, why'd y'all let this happen? What's this? What's that? Da, 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 da. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, like we're getting action, we're getting lore dumps, we're getting like politics, like sneaky shit, da da da. And then clearly we are building up to something. And then we get the transformation. And honestly, I think the lion transformation looked crazy. Not the lion, the white tiger. I was like, this looks not good to me. I was like, this doesn't look like, because the way that they did the transformation, the way that like the energy aura came off of him when he did the transformation, I was like, oh shit, like we might we might be cooking a little bit here. And then they showed the character design of him as the white tiger beastman. I was like, this look kind of frumpy. I'm not gonna lie. Like it looks a little frumpy. I'm not actually, he doesn't look cool. Like actually the beastman body looked good, but his face was so like too round. It was too round. And I was just like, when I'm thinking of a beastman and like, a tiger, like, that's like especially a white tiger, like that's not jagged features, but more defined, more like,
Something
like
cool.
something cool. I don't even know what the fuck I was trying to say. Yeah, something
Whatever it
fucking
is, just
cool.
something cool.
Something
Try.
cool.
Please
But that
try.
looked a little frumpy to me. Now,
Yeah,
maybe in action, it might be refined. Or
sure.
whenever they release the Blu-ray, it'll probably look completely fucking different. Um, but I was just like, wow, really good lead up, really good momentum. And then it was kind of just like, that's it. That's what he looked like. Okay. And now I am looking forward to the next episode. But I see why people are just unhappy with the series. I honestly can see it, because a lot of the stuff that we've been, I feel like there are also too many cogs in the fucking machine right now. Like it does it they're too, they talk about the Phoenix, there's the interdimensional world war. They had that whole thing with like the Turtis and then going into the alternate universe in the second season.
Mm-hmm.
And then those people that they like did all that stuff with are supposed to be their enemies. But like it's just there are all these plot lines that just kind of like happened, and they're just there. The only thing that has been a constant that has been interesting for me is Vitoria, where she keeps calling his Nash, and she's gonna be like, "I will kill you. You better do it. I will kill you." And he constantly is just like, she really will kill us. Like, all right, we gotta listen to her. Like, come on now. That is the one joyful moment where I get every once in a while on the season where she calls and she threatens his ass. I'm just like, okay, so this is a push for you to go in this direction. Like, she is a
Yeah.
plot point. She's a plot device. And she's one of the only things I really fucking enjoy about the show. I mean, I it's definitely not triple A tier, but it's not honestly, I feel like it's probably on the same level as like Water Magician at this point.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, just
Like,
historically, yes.
yeah, like it's on the same level, but I think Water Magician, being a series that came out at a later time, it had more time to cook, or they probably got inspiration from shows like Shield Hero,
It
so
just has the
maybe,
benefit of being a little newer, you know,
or maybe that, yeah,
like
that too, yeah,
because I don't know,
yeah,
I'm not like 100% sold. Here's like the thing, you know, as you probably know, like um Shield Hero's been around for a while.
yeah.
If you're a fan of it at this
You're a
point,
fan
you're a fan, right? It's there's not much it's gonna do that's gonna convince somebody that like wasn't
to
into it.
drop it,
Right,
yeah,
or vice versa, right? To get into it or to drop it. Like if you're here, you're in it. If you're not into it, you're probably not consuming it. Water Magician being new has opportunity to both gain and lose interest just based on
mm,
like what they do. So if like, you know, production wise, Shield Hero kind of where it's at. I remember watching like the first season, and I was like a manga reader at that point, and I was just curious, like, okay, it wasn't like the manga was known for being this like expressive and beautiful thing. It was okay. It
yeah,
was probably above average, but the character designs were not like, oh my god, I can't wait till they do this or that. And I watched the first season. I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. You know, there's some cost saving stuff in there that doesn't look great, but there's also you know, enough action. And again, it's very like system driven early on.
yeah.
They try to pretend like it matters. It really doesn't.
It doesn't
By the second,
fucking
by the second season, that shit doesn't give a fuck. Like, oh, he's got the shield of win this fight.
it literally becomes it literally becomes him collecting other people who are powerful. That's literally
Exactly.
what it
Because they
becomes.
ran
The
out of things to
shields,
do with the
but
actual
because the
system
actual
of
shields don't matter. He
they don't
only,
matter.
I
Which is
feel like, and he
unfortunate because
uses
that
the
was the
same
one thing that made
shields.
it different.
He
Like the
uses the
shields
same
were the
shields for every
Pokemon, right?
fight.
You go out, you collect the
Yes,
shields,
which he's
right?
still doing it, but they're not focusing on his shield system anywhere as much as they used to.
Because it doesn't
Like,
matter. It's literally
like
just a device for if he's in trouble in a fight, there's a shield that does a thing that will solve the fight. Maybe they told you about it before. By the time they got to like the third season or the end of the second season, they weren't bothering to explain any of that shit ahead of time.
no, no.
He would just like pull it out and be like, "Oh yeah, this is the shield of solve the problem." Its only job is to solve the problem, and it does.
And it does. And then outside of that shield, he uses the same fucking like wind, air, the chain
Yep.
ball shield. Like it's the
Yep.
same stuff. There's no there's no more like him developing himself. It's more about him developing the people around him, which
Yes.
the plot does state that it's like we all have to be powerful enough to go against the Phoenix. It's not just only the heroes. Like we all have to be training and like of similar level. So I get it, but I'm just like, but the draw was the system stuff. Like you led with
So
that and you
it's
threw it
funny because
out.
like you bringing that up was making me think. I read this like really trashy manga that I'm not going to recommend because I literally don't even remember the name of it. But the concept was it was like it was an isekai. The main character was a grown adult mercenary who was known as like a mad bomber in the real world. So like he was a person who blew people up for a living and he was basically a sociopath, like almost on the psychopathic end, but like you know, if you're doing the D&D alignment chart, he's like chaotic neutral. Like if you don't fuck with him, he'll leave you
Oh,
alone. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you'll have a
yeah,
fine day. If you slight him in any way, he'll kill your whole family. It was like kind of one of those deals.
yeah.
So the reason I bring this up is that um in the setup, he is summoned with a group of people. They're like, "Hey, we're fighting a war. We're losing. This is, every place can summon heroes. We've summoned ours. Y'all gonna go fight on the front lines." And the nigga was like, "Oh, okay, fine. You gonna pay me?" They were like, "Pay what?" He said, "Oh, y'all gonna pay me?" He's like, "Who the fuck are you talking to? Like, you gotta work for us." All they and the king immediately is like, "I'm gonna fuck you up." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he kills everybody there and winds up like essentially blowing up the entire city. So he goes from like level 10 to level 600 by killing everybody
Oh
off
my
rip. Okay,
God.
they're getting to this. So this is why I say it's trashy because it's clearly a power fantasy. The main character is like such a psycho person. Like he's not a good person. They don't try to pretend that he's a good person. He doesn't really care that like he's killing all these people. Like he's like they fuck with me first, so whatever happens happens. But I bring this up to be like, okay, so in Shield Hero, they trick you in the beginning into thinking that like what really matters are the abilities, right?
Yeah.
Because that's literally the plot of the first arc is that he gets shit on because like, oh, your ability is trash, okay? And you're supposed to believe that that will matter. So they tell you all this stuff. Oh, the shields work this way, and he's got to go out and fight little monsters, and then he discovers that like it's not so bad, and actually, da 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 da. They waste all this time, and then by the time you're like, where we're at now, it doesn't fucking matter. In this manga, it's kind of the same deal. It's like his ability is bomb making, right? And it's not
Okay.
like something that's immediately obvious, like how useful this is going to be. All it really does is it means that if he tries to make a bomb out of anything, it will always succeed. Like
That's
so
so easy. Just
it right,
wow.
right. That's it.
Wow.
That's the extent of the ability. All the other people got summoned got like absolutely like crazy shit. Like there's one guy who he winds up fighting later, whose ability is basically like perfect reflection, but not like pairing with a sword. As long as he thinks about saving his own life, anything that would cause any physical damage to him will be reflected back at the person who did it two times. Really straightforward. It basically meant that when the guy blew up the city, he lived because he was far away, there was no way to reflect it back. So basically, he was the dude who lived was invincible, like he was completely immortal. And because he knew
Yeah.
the guy's abilities, like you can do whatever you want with bombs. I don't give a fuck. You can't touch me. In fact, if you try to blow me up with a grenade or some shit, yo ass is dead. And so the main character was like, "Yeah, that is how that works. I've tried blowing him up. I've tried stabbing him with a knife. Oh, know what I can do. He gets in CQC like close quarters combat range. Instead of throwing punches, he just puts him in a rear naked choke and shoves a grenade down his throat and pulls the pin and holds his mouth shut. And remember that the ability is every time something that does damage to you, it reflects it back two times. But if the explosion can't leave his body, that means it gets endlessly reflected inside of his
Oh
body
my
as long as his
God.
mouth is closed. So the way he takes this nigga out is ridiculous because he basically infinitely explodes the grenade inside of him until the dude has to open his mouth, at which point he kicks himself away and he just explodes. And it's like, is it the most intelligent thing in the world? No. But it was fun. It was playing around with the stupid overpowered powers. They very quickly say levels don't fucking matter because the main character is already at level like 700 by the first whatever. Everyone's abilities are fucking broken. But inside of that framework, there's some fun off the wall kooky shit that you can do,
Yeah.
still entertaining. And that's what Shield Hero never bothers to do
Yeah.
ever again. It just becomes like a girlfriend raising simulator where it's like,
Because that's what it is. Oh my God. You're so the orca, the tiger girl, all the
it's
fucking
so
kids
annoying.
in the
It's not even a
village, they're
harem.
primarily
It's
girls.
just girlfriend
It
raising.
it can't. And the thing is, the main thing that he loves, and he makes it so fucking obvious, is the raccoon pet. over the
Yes.
actual raccoon girl. He loves the raccoon pet more than all of them. He
It's
makes
so
it so
ridiculous.
obvious.
It's so
And it's
fucking
which
ridiculous.
it's kind of like a saving grace because it's just like, okay, like you really are truly not about to fucking,
Yeah,
but
and
like
thank God that he's not
yeah,
really trying to put his dick into any of these women he's
because they
grooming.
would let him, because they would.
Yes,
But it's
they
so
would
funny
fall over themselves.
whenever the group has to go out and do stuff, and he's like, "Leave Roth. No, Roth is staying with me. That's my
Yeah,
baby. That's my baby. Roth is staying with me." And it's kind of just like he really cares more about that fucking raccoon pet than he does
that is the
about
only
any of these
saving
niggas.
grace is that
Like,
that is
or the
it.
Tanuki pet, not raccoon, the Tanuki pet. He
Whatever,
cares more
man.
about the Tanuki pet than any of the niggas. And it's just, yeah, I mean, as you said, I'm not gonna stop watching it. I'm not saying this to say that I hate it. I'm just saying this to say like it's doing things, and there some of it's good and some of it's milk toast, and I don't even know if I would say any of it is bad. I'm just like I just keep chasing that first season spark,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. They're getting close, and then they go another direction. They come back around, they go another direction. Then they
Mm-hmm.
get close, and then they stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, now it's gone. Like that, you ruined the hype. Like you ruined what we had. But anyways, yeah, I watched that. You watched Dress Up Darling, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So how's that going? I know there was a plot point about like a guy who did like the cross dressing cosplaying, and like there was a girlfriend who didn't like it, and he was like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
Like, so
I
I
think
was
what
like,
I
that's
appreciate
healthy.
is that so there's two directions in Dress Up Darling, and frankly, like any of these like romance style shows where you can kind of take the plot where like
Mm-hmm.
one direction is the main character becomes well liked by the community that he's in, right? Because it starts out, I don't think anyone likes my stuff. I'm kind of weird, all this other shit, and then it's like, how does the character overcome that personally? How do they get out of their shell, and then how do they become accepted by the community? That's like one direction part of the story.
Yeah.
The other part of the story is there's a girl I'm into, or girls plural, love triangle. What drama can
Yeah.
we create and solve inside of that structure of like the interpersonal stuff that people are dealing with. In Dress Up Darling, like the first season was a lot more focused on the personalities, like the quote unquote, will they, won't they, and the sort of kind of love triangle among the people that he's meeting that all do different stuff. Some people
Mm-hmm.
model. Some people also like to like make things, or they're creators. The misunderstandings that people get into because of, either not communicating or communicating incorrectly. That was like the first season. I feel like the second season is really more along the lines of like the main character getting over the idea that everybody thinks he's a fucking loser and a weirdo. I think like that's the direction that we're going with the plot, and I
Okay.
like that a lot more. Not, oh, I don't want to say a lot more. I like that that is as important as
The
the interpersonal
romance.
drama, because you can only
Yeah.
take that side of things so far before you become like rent a girlfriend. And what I mean by that is like
Oh,
try doing things that are unbelievably messy just for the sake of having
just to
something to
keep it
do.
going. Just to keep it
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
And it's a good thing that that's not the direction that any of this is really headed in, story wise. So I mean, I don't really have like a lot to say specifically about the latest episodes, just because like I feel like if you're into the show and you want to dig into the drama that is there, then I don't want to spoil that or get in the way of that. However, I just like that direction for the season. That it's really more like the main character, like, oh, actually, people don't think I'm a fucking weirdo, and like I can make friends and we can be cool, and like the community sees my work, and actually I'm getting like props for doing what I'm doing, and like that.
Yeah.
And I say that as if someone who was into that kind of thing in real life watched the show in a very wholesome kind of way, it presents a lot of blueprints for how to manage those same feelings in reality, which is not something you could say about a lot of like slice of life or romance stuff just because in order to make the plots exciting, they wind up having to create a lot of noise that doesn't really,
They had to
exist
create the conflict
IRL.
out of thin air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
so, altogether, I'm like pretty high on the
That's the
series.
general vibe I got from the first episode. So it's nice
Yeah.
to know that they're like continuing. Um, I don't really think I watched much of anything else. I mean, I definitely talked about the one. Oh, Mangora. I'm loving Mangora. I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what I'm about to say is it's gonna sound worse than what I mean. It's like, what I'm saying is actually a good
Oh,
thing. It's like Diet Overlord. Um,
oh, I think that is the most accurate because I kept while watching it, I was just like, this isn't like how to rebuild a kingdom. Like this isn't like, and I keep thinking about that because of the build, like the society building aspect. But
right.
it is Overlord, like because Overlord had society building,
Yeah.
political, government, da da da. It's just that I haven't watched the most recent stuff for Overlord for like a minute. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
Diet Overlord
it's just Diet Overlord and
without the gratuitous like harem
yeah.
currently.
Yeah,
Currently,
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
And
know.
that is and if I would say that there's like any I don't want to say like this is not like a criticism, but like we talked before about character having like strong characterization. The Takuto character is not well developed at all. However,
Mm-mm.
that may be also a benefit because in Overlord, Ainz is very clearly a sociopath. Like very clearly because he doesn't care that deeply about the lives of anybody
No.
in the world that he is existing in because like and this isn't like oh well he thinks it's not real or oh he thinks like this is still a game so whatever else we find out in the first episode like when he sort of like first popped up he's like I kind of don't feel anything like I want to see
Yeah.
my friends again. I want to know if they're still around. And like, a lot of his actions, in fact, all of his actions are pretty much exclusively to make a connection with another human being from his world, which means that he kind of considers every being that exists in the place that he's at as being
Not
somewhere
human.
below
Yeah.
that. He loves all the creations of his friends because they remind him of his
His
friends,
friends.
but quite literally he will commit genocide just to get an answer to a question. He don't give a fuck about anything or anybody that he's dealing with and he will kill them and torture them and ruin them in ways that defy physics and logic and all reality. The most
Yeah.
vile shit he will get up to, and he doesn't even care. It's not even like in what do you call it? Eminence in Shadow, where it's sort of like a game and he's playing around. He don't
Yeah.
even get off on it. He's like, oh shit,
No.
oh, I have to role play right now. I am very evil. I killed your entire family. It's like that's a
And he has
sociopath.
done that. He has done that. Yeah.
Right. Takuto kind of has the same like general character structure. He spends the first episode kind of questioning like is he in the game that he was in before? Is he
Yeah. And
not?
we starting to
Kind
get
of what
those
are the rules?
answers.
He's not
Yeah.
inherently like a violent or a dangerous person, but even the way he thinks about um people
Mm-hmm.
is very much on the Ainz like wavelength. Like he will like for example,
He sees
he
those dark elves as
accepts, oh
units.
yeah, I'm just evil aligned. Okay.
Yeah.
So then that just means that like I don't care if I change and warp anybody around me to do whatever I want. Sure, they present the dark elves like they're very thankful for what he's doing, but
Mm-hmm.
like realistically, he knows a lot more about what's about to happen and what he's about to ask of these otherwise innocent people,
Yeah.
and doesn't give a single fuck. And it comes up again with like the meat tree where they're like, "Ooh, what the fuck is this?" Like, it's a fucking meat tree.
Yes.
What are you talking about? And it gets solidified in the last couple episodes when Atto runs into the fucking paladins, and that was a full on overlord
That
sequel.
yes, that I was like racking my brain. I was like, this is evoking like a similar feeling from another show, and I was like, I just can't because I just don't know what it is. And yeah, it that was like Overlord diet,
It's a full
light,
on
zero
Overlord
sugar, or
sequence
whatever, light.
that they ran there, to the point where they literally did the like mustache twirling evil villain speech. You know,
The
Atto does
smile,
the thing. Yeah, the smile. She does the thing where it's
yeah,
like, "Oh, you thought those were all my tentacles? I'm just playing with y'all niggas," and just like
yes.
torturing people and just mass slaughter with like laughing, and it's like whatever. And then the dark elves are like, so were you gonna go and kill everyone's family like you said you were? And she's like, maybe. Like, I don't know. I was playing around, like I kind of maybe went a little overboard. Da, da, da. Takuto not only saw all of that, she then reports it to him. This woman just slaughtered dozens of people in the most ridiculous and gratuitous way, a truly evil act.
And the next thing they talk
Takuto's
about
like,
is making an alliance.
he's like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Next
Like,
on the agenda
right.
is
The right. And the difference is his character is very much childlike. I don't think he's supposed to be a
yeah.
child, but his way of engaging with what the reality of what's going on is incredibly childish. Like he's unsure of himself. He, doesn't really want to. He's like kind of timid.
He's leaving
Um,
certain things up to Atto, like for the most part, because he's just like, I
right.
don't really know. I don't really want to do
And
it.
like
Like,
his level
yeah.
of emotional engagement when he finds out like there's some cool game thing he can do, like, yay, I get to do the thing in the game. Should we revive one of the other psychopathic commanders that's in the game? Oh, wouldn't it be so great if we did that? Like this nigga is like he's in
Which, oh my
another.
God. Yeah, now that you even say that about like them both being crazy, because they had that whole conversation an episode or two ago about why they were reviving the specific hero because she was more even killed. And then this episode, they were like, "Oh shit, we might actually need one of them crazy niggas. We should just get one
Yeah,
of them. We should just do that. Like we should
yeah,
just revive." And it's like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." Like yeah, and then they did it like Ato was clapping her hands, like
yep,
yay.
yep.
It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, but like, I made the comparison. I say like when I said like diet overlord, what I mean is that even the Takuto character is a much more a less complicated Ainz Sama,
Mm,
like because to everyone else, one thing I like about the series is that it does kind of play with um perception a lot, where like they constantly show you what Takuto looks like to anybody who sees him, which is like a fucking dark eminence, like a creature of pure darkness that's just like unsettling and powerful and terrifying. And then it's like what he actually looks like, how Atto sees him primarily is like very like, you know, beta male herbivore man, Japan guy
bones.
in a funny outfit that he was like he was giving me like some Lord Zeno shit from Dragon Ball. Yay! New clothes, new clothes, new clothes. I'm like, this dude is fucking cracked, bro. Something is wrong with this guy. That said, we did get introduced to the a potential, well, we know she's gonna be an ally because they put too much effort into her outfit.
Yeah, yeah. And oh, and the way that they animated the background people was so it was crazy. When the messenger walked off, I was like, you niggas didn't even try that
They
while she
didn't
tried.
care.
They did not
Like
even
it's the most.
try. That shit looks so
We're here for like the psychopathic lolly necromancer girl. They had like the cow lady and then like a bunch of guys they barely drew
yeah,
in the
with the cow
background.
lady. Yes, the cow. Yeah, the cow lady. The guys in the background. I was like, y'all don't even just show her.
They
Have
don't
their
even
voices be
care.
in the
They don't even
background.
give a shit,
Don't
and
even
that's
show them.
fine.
He
That's what I
literally
mean.
was
Like
like almost a stick figure walking like that.
it's like they were like, yo, we're just not gonna spend any money. All right, like let's just keep it a
Yeah, I mean,
buck.
they were like, "Listen, Atto had that battle. We wanted to show the crazy shit. We did
Yeah,
it. I
exactly.
mean, but also the freaky face on the witch. I was like, okay, she's a crazy lolly. Like, okay, we get
Yeah,
it. Like, blah blah blah. But I am interested in what they discovered. Where Homeboy was like, I don't think this is the game world. I think this might be like a completely different world
Mm-hmm.
altogether. And then like a part of my head was like, oh my god, what if it's like multiple isekais but from different games? Like that would be cool. But you know, or just it's probably just like other leaders from like the leaderboard and like all that kind of shit like that, and they all got
Yeah.
isekais. Da, 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 da. Either way, I am enjoying it though.
Yeah, no,
I am
I
enjoying it.
like it a lot. I like it for all the same reasons I liked Overlord and I like some of the things. There's a kind of quaint uh Windows 98 era, Game Boy Advance era video game vibe that they kind
Mm,
of they poke into once or
yeah.
twice an episode. And I do appreciate that the structure of the game system is relevant to how the characters make this, at least Takuto and Ato make decisions about what they're going to do. It matters to some degree. Like, I care that it's a plot device that they need to generate mana to do anything. That's
Mm-hmm.
important. And it's come up a bunch of times, but it's not like totally gamified where like I need to know a lot or those systems need to be very well fleshed out. So it's doing just enough in those other spaces that like it feels like a very reasonable way to spend 22 minutes a week is just checking in on that series and seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, that's all for me for this week.
Yeah,
As
pretty
far as weekly
much the
wise.
same. I mean, I watched a little bit of New Saga and I just like instantly turned like I was like, nah, no.
I actually, well, I'm not up to date on New Saga, but I did give it the first like 3.5 episodes, and it's just predictable. I'm not gonna say slop, but it's very predictable. It's
It's not
very
complete
predictable.
slop, but the problem I have again, especially when it comes to like reincarnation stories, is that all the interesting emotional development of the character happens before the story starts. Like you want to convince me that like these people are very important to him and therefore that drives all the actions this character is going to take in the story, but I don't know who these people are. I didn't have any experiences with them as a viewer. You give me maybe a flashback to be like, oh, I watched her die, so that's, or I watched this person basically the story is saying I watched everybody die in some way and I don't want that to happen, but I didn't watch them die. I have no connection to what that is. So why the fuck do I care? Don't this thing about like you like with the author or the director or the writing team, they just like, well, you've watched enough of these types of things before. You know the
So you know
rules.
how to assume,
So I'm not gonna bother
yeah,
explaining any of this
no.
shit to you. Actually rubs me the wrong. Like the show might not do anything wrong, but just the fact that that's the mentality rubs me the wrong way as a viewer. Where it's sort of just like I I I have a more animosity towards that project than I otherwise would because they're being lazy. Like, how about you show some confidence in your own storytelling and try to get me to give a fuck about the character first? Somehow figure it out. I don't care how you want to do it. Like it would be, I would really appreciate one of these like return stories where the first season is the story, and then at the end they go back. How about that? How about
Mm.
do
Speaking of
something?
returner stories, what's that manhwa that only got like one season? Um, the,
Return recently, the Returns Magic
yeah,
should be special.
yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
Returners Magic Super Special. Yeah,
at
that
least
one.
in that, even in like the anime that it did get the adaptation, they did try to like to go over how fucked up the main character was emotionally as a result of like what was going on. Like they spent a lot of, in my opinion, maybe they spent a little bit too much time of him just like staring at people wistfully, like I can't believe I'm seeing this person again. Now in the manhwa, because it's paced a lot better, there's immediately problems that the main character has to start solving that are not addressed by any past knowledge of anything. Like it's just in the moment they got to figure out how the fuck to make this shit work. And there's a persistent like over like there's like a meta story and mystery that's getting unraveled, going forward about like, oh, how the fuck did any of this stuff happen in the first place? And they keep things going fast enough and they introduce you new interesting characters fast enough that you sort of forget the parts that shouldn't work and don't make any sense. New Saga don't do any of that shit. New Saga gives you like 5 minutes of like, we gotta beat the Demon King. Oh shit, I got reincarnated after everybody died. Oh, and then when the character's having like PTSD and like gooning out over some girl that like popped in who died when he was, 15
Oh.
years old, it's like I don't care because you haven't done anything to make me care. Like I'm sorry. Like try harder, and I don't think it will. So that's why after I got through episode one, I'm like,
I
uh.
made it further. I intend to go a little bit further. It's the same thing. I have the kind of not the same feeling, but like S Rank Adventure. Those are just shows where I'm just gonna be like, I'm in the mood for this today. Let me just catch up.
Sure.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. But it's definitely not something where I'm like, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah. Um, I don't have any news. And I'm in the process of watching a recommendation that once I catch up, I'm most likely
Got
gonna be
it.
recommending it like next
Yeah.
week.
I mean,
But yeah.
I'm keeping an eye on the um what's it called? Samurai Troopers or Ronin Warriors, the remake. There's like a
Is that
little
soon? Soon?
no, it's not soon, but they're like dribbling and drabbling out
Oh,
little
okay. Because
like
I'm excited for
design
that too. I
stuff.
love Ronin Warriors. Like, fuck
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's
But
like
I
a
didn't think it
there's
was
like
gonna
a
be. Yeah,
new teaser trailer here and there. Like I don't usually like watch a lot of those because I like to be pleasantly surprised, but like the art style that they're teasing for the new one looks really cool.
yeah,
Um and I'm here for it, and I love Ronin Warriors, and I also think that it's been long enough, and it looks like by design wise they are not doing like a faithful remake of the original. They're just taking the same
yeah,
story and updating it, which means that like I have new stuff to look forward to. I don't have to live in nostalgia, for
yeah.
a
So
because
then,
like the
well,
part of the
actually,
reason I love the
now,
original Ronin Warriors was the dub cast was fucking amazing.
yes, and it
Like
was so good. Yes,
yeah, the dub
yes,
cast was awesome, but like that's not the show. That's just the American, dub casting and watching it on Toonami when I was like 13 years old. I
mm-hmm.
want to have a new experience with this. I don't want to relive nostalgia. I've had enough of that. I'm good. So
Yeah,
I'm
like Sailor
liking
Moon
that they're just
Crystal.
updating
Yeah,
everything, and I wanted to see what they do with the concept. So there's that. As far as recommendation goes, one manhwa recommendation is called Absolute Regression. It is a returner story. It's great because it's the main character is like your very typical like martial arts he's like demon clan martial arts stuff. It's a by the way the art style is what really like pulls this one out. It has a very unique art style. It is reminiscent of the Breaker, and I think it might be the
oh,
same principal artist who's doing the new Breaker
yeah,
series. But like all the characters look fucking awesome. The martial arts aspect of it is takes a back seat to a lot of politics, which you think, oh, that's boring. Why do you want to watch a returner's like martial arts story with not a ton of martial arts and a lot of like yapping? Well, that's because like the character development that is done
that
over the
leads
course of the
up
series,
to the
like
fight.
it follows this really nice and like satisfying pattern of the main character genuinely wanting to create strong bonds, real like bonds of like brotherhood and sisterhood with people that he never got to make those bonds with when he was alive, because the setup is that like the clan was betrayed and he was not powerful enough at the time to like stop anything, and he lived a pretty horrible life afterwards of sort of like on the run trying to regain enough power to get revenge, and he dies before it happens. But then when he regresses, his entire mentality about how to approach, saving the people that he cares about is not just making sure everybody lives. He is very willing to kill everyone that would be necessary to protect the clan itself, which means that there's no characters who are like instantaneously sacred cows for the story. Every character
Like
that the
if they
main
become a
character
threat.
decides to connect with is someone who he didn't have a relationship with in the past. So he is learning about these people and what they believe in and what their desires are in real time with the audience. It's not the thing I was complaining about before, where the story
Yeah.
of what the person did in the previous life is so much more interesting, and that's where they make all the connections that you're supposed to care about. In this case, all those connections are brand new, all of them. And it's about we're about like 50-ish chapters deep, and there are so many great moments where the main character is kind of laying out his ideology individually about like what it means to like trust people. What does like real trust mean? Not just like me to you, but like a community to a person. Like how do you build that and make it matter and last in the face of, individuals who are like superhumans who could like annihilate, whole armies or whatever else. The other thing is that his relationship with his father in the series is very interesting because like again, this was not a person in his past life he had a relationship with, and so he comes into it with a lot of preconceived ideas about the kind of man that his father was, and makes mistakes in dealing with him, only to realize that actually he could be a good father that he never got to experience when he was, in the previous life, partially because, he was a weakling, but also because he misunderstood who his dad was,
Okay.
and so things like that like keep me coming back way more than the beautiful paneling, and it's great. Or like the power system, which is like not anything unusual for like a martial arts a manhwa. And the other thing I'll say is that there's one character that really sticks out to me, and it's his bodyguard, who is canonically an overweight woman, and they don't do the thing that you often see in these series where like, she is either treated as fodder, or when the main character invests his time in building a relationship with her and then says, I'll teach you martial arts, then she gets skinny and hot. That does not
Hmm.
happen. And in fact, what she looks like is never addressed. It's never a part of the story. Nobody comments on it. It's not like she's not used as a punching bag by the characters. Like none of that. That's just who she is. It's what she looks like. And as she grows as a character and as a warrior, she continues to look exactly the way that she looks. And I was like, it's little things like that that made me just respect what they were doing a little bit more. Like they were actually kind of cooking there,
That's
and I
actually
I like that.
necessary. It's necessary for a lot of this stuff.
So it's called
Whether
Absolute Regression. I do recommend.
okay. All right. Well then you can find us on Blue Sky, Twitter, Anime Savants, on YouTube, Anime Savants, on Spotify. As long as I don't know if you've given them your government ID, but we're elsewhere as well. Actually, the majority of our streams don't even come from Spotify, so that's nice. But yeah, where can I find you, James?
You can find me on Twitter at Neural Handshake. You can find me on Blue Sky, James Morris King. Yeah, that's really it.
All
Keep 'em
right.
breezy.
See y'all next time. Bye.
Peace out.